Hello, Haley Ann. This is Andrew Urbano, and I will be making a video for you about Bill Johnson. Who was Bill Johnson? His name was William Dean Johnson, but he was nicknamed Bill Johnson, of course, or Billy, or Brash Young American. He's got all sorts of nicknames, but anyways, Bill Johnson was born in Los Angeles, California on March 30th, 1960. And moved with his family to Boise, Idaho. When he was 7, he learned to ski at Bogus Basin in the late 1960s. 2 years later, they moved to Brightwood, Oregon, near Mount Hood. And Johnson later attended Sandy Union High School in Sandy. He was a troubled youth who began competitive skiing on nearby Mount Hood as a means of harnessing his energy. After a run-in with the law at age 17, the juvenile defendant was given the choice between 6 months in jail or attending the Mission Ridge Ski Academy in Central Washington State. He chose the latter. His talent in the downhill event eventually landed him on a spot on the U.S. ski team. Johnson made his World Cup debut in February 1983 and finished 6th in the downhill at St. Anton, Austria. In 1984, at age 23, Johnson challenged the long-established European domination of downhill ski racing. Even some of his teammates considered the 23-year-old Mr. Johnson a brash upstart. As he revealed in his image as the bad boy of skiing, he was called Billy the Kid, a nickname that I just mentioned. Or might not have, I don't know, but anyways, back to Bill Johnson. Basically, any downhill skier is a daredevil. That's basically it. This is a quote that I was just reading. I'm going to skip that quotation. After many undistinguished finishes, his unexpected victory on January 15th on the storied Laberhorn course at Wengen, Switzerland, was the first for an American male in World Cup downhill competition. A month later, at the 1984 Winter Olympics in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, now Bosnia, he had promising downhill training runs on a course that favored his gliding style. He boldly predicted his Olympic victory, evoking comparisons to Joe Namath and Muhammad Ali, and irking his European competitors. His gold medal win at Bojezlanica in a time of 1.45, I'm not going to try to say it, edged out a silver medalist Peter Muller of Switzerland by 0.27 seconds. Excuse me. Post-Olympic decline. This was the Olympic triumph I just read. Post-Olympic decline. After 2 more World Cup downhill victories in Aspen and Whistler, in March 1984, Johnson was at the top of his sport. With 4 downhill wins in just 2 months, he was an Olympic champion and finished 3rd in the downhill season standings. But after the 1984 season, his best results were 2 7th-place finishes at Wengen in January 1985 and at Whistler in March of 1986. His brashness made him unpopular with the European fans and competitors. 3 days late to a training camp, his fiancal support was withdrawn in May 1985, but he returned to the team several months later. Due to injuries to his left knee in December of 1986, and back which required surgery, and more significantly, sagging results, Johnson was left off the U.S. ski team for the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, unable to defend his gold medal. A month later, he was suspended from the team and missed the final events of the 1988 season. It was later disclosed he had a locker room scuffle with an assistant coach in November of 1987. By the end of the decade, he was done. As a serious competitor, he retired after the 1990 season. Excuse me, and I'm sorry if I said that. Soon after his Olympic win, Johnson openly voiced his strong opinions about amateurism in ski racing and the U.S. ski team's handling of its finances. He attempted to start a professional circuit of downhill racing in 1985 to compete with the World Cup, but it failed to gain momentum. Johnson's Olympic career was the subject of a 1985 TV movie called Going for the Gold. The Bill Johnson story featuring future ER actor Anthony Edwards in the title role. It first aired in May and also included Dennis Weaver and Sarah Jessica Parker. Johnson has two sons named Tyler and Nick. Johnson's stated personal motto tattooed on his arm was "Ski to Die." Comeback attempt. Johnson's personal life suffered as well. When his 13-month-old son Ryan drowned in a hot tub in 1992, at age 40, his marriage ended in divorce, and he was bankrupt and living in his Class A motorhome when he was mounted an improbable comeback bid for the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. The comeback ended abruptly on March 22, 2001, when Johnson crashed during a training run prior to the downhill race of the 2001 U.S. Alpine Championships, held at the Big Mountain near Whitefish, Montana. He sustained serious injury to the left side of his brain, nearly bit off his tongue, and was comatose for 3 weeks. In 2010, Johnson lived in Zigzag, near Mount Hood, and remained brain damaged and in need of constant care, mostly from his mother. He became slightly more functional, though his speech and memory were permanently impaired. Johnson has suffered a series of mini strokes over the course of the previous 10 years. Later, in 2010, he fell victim to a massive stroke and was moved to a long-term care facility in Gresham. Excuse me, my bad. Sorry if I'm scratching my forehead a bit. Sorry I'm doing this. Due to the stroke, Johnson lost the ability to sit up unassisted and could no longer use his right hand. He also lost sight in his left eye and further lost the ability to speak above a whisper. He also suffered great pain when swallowing, which made feeding him difficult. Excuse me. In June 2013, Johnson contracted an infection that nearly took his life. He was placed on life support while doctors worked to fight the infection. Johnson elected in July to remove himself from life support and refused further treatment. He said that the next time something like this happens, his wishes were to be left alone to die. Following a return to long care in February of 2014, he was said to be free of infection, able to move once as by eat and smoke with assistance and communicate using a letterboard. However, Johnson later experienced worsening health. Next thing is his death. Nearly 15 years after his accident, Johnson died at the age of 55 on January 21st, 2016, at the care facility in Gresham. I will give you a question and an answer, basically a Q&A. Bill Johnson basically suffered a traumatic brain injury during his comeback attempt. And when his son Ryan drowned, it was an unattended hot tub. And his story is on The Sporting Life on ESPN by Jeremy Schaap about the passing and the legacy of Bill Johnson. He died in Gresham, Oregon, in the United States. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hey, Leanne, thank you for watching. Bye.